There is ample evidence of the city in which Jesus is said to have lived, but what about the details about his very public trial and crucifixion?
Recently, evidence of Caiaphas, the high priest at the time of Jesus, was found while workmen were building a new road. They discovered a tomb. Inside were several stone boxes containing bones called ossuaries. One ossuary had the name Caiaphas inscribed in Hebrew. Scholars have identified the ossuary as belonging to the high priest Caiaphas, who presided over the trial of Jesus. The recent installation of new underground pipes in Jerusalem led to the discovery of a street from the time of Jesus. Under some steps, archaeologists found a coin with the inscription of Pontius Pilate on it. This is further evidence that the Roman governor existed at the time of Jesus. But this wasn't the first reference to Pilate. The capital of Palestine for almost 600 years was the city of Caesarea. This city was founded by Herod the Great and was renowned for its magnificent buildings. The size of this aqueduct gives some idea of the population at the time. Because of its incredible beauty, some Roman governors chose to live here. A recently discovered inscription at this site mentions the name of Pontius Pilate, the governor at the time of Jesus. The Gospel writers claim that during the trial of Jesus, Pilate was staying in Jerusalem at the headquarters of the Roman garrison, a palace fortress built by Herod the Great. Because the Jews didn't have the power of the death penalty, Jesus was dragged to this building to be tried again before the Roman authorities.
The Bible account suggests that Pilate knew Jesus was innocent, but was caught in a web of intrigue and blackmail. And bringing him before the crowds in the open plaza, he declared, "Behold the man." The crowd's cry of "Crucify him" was what condemned Jesus to death. And washing his hands of the affair, Pilate ordered Jesus to carry the cross designed for Barabbas, a local criminal. And so he began his journey through the streets of Jerusalem.
The traditional way of the cross, the Via Dolorosa, winds its way through the lanes and bazaars of Old Jerusalem to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. For 1700 years, the traditional church has identified this as the site of Jesus' crucifixion. Within the church is a rocky outcrop said to be the Hill of the Skull, or Golgotha in the Hebrew language. Under the great rotunda of the church, there is an ancient rock-cut tomb that's supposed to be the tomb of Jesus. Tradition may well have preserved the exact site. The temple was later demolished, and the Church of the Holy Sepulchre was built on the site in the 4th century. Excavations in the area have uncovered tombs that were typical of the time.
If the New Testament record is accurate, in just 24 hours, Jesus fulfills scores of predictions, some made more than 1,000 years earlier by the Old Testament prophets. It's an interesting proposition, because the prophets could not possibly have predicted the Messiah's precise death without some sort of supernatural leading. On the other hand, Jewish writers would not have inserted the prophecies into the Old Testament after the event, since they didn't believe that Jesus was the Messiah anyway. And it seems rather bizarre that a mere man would set out to claim to be the Messiah and arrange to have himself killed in order to substantiate that claim, particularly when many of the predicted events would have been outside of his control. Let's look closely at some of them. 500 years before Christ, the prophet Zechariah told of the future betrayal. even nominating the sum to be paid as a bribe.
Then I said to them, "If it is agreeable to you, give me my wages, and if not, refrain." So they weighed out for my wages 30 pieces of silver.
What was to happen to this money? According to the same prophet, it was to be paid to a potter.
And the Lord said to me, "Throw it to the potter. That princely price they set on me." So I took the 30 pieces of silver and threw them into the house of the Lord for the potter.
It's uncanny. But according to the Gospels, Judas was paid 30 pieces of silver for leading the mob to arrest Jesus in the garden. When Judas realized that Jesus wasn't going to free himself and declare himself king, he panicked. Going back to the temple, he threw the silver coins on the floor in front of the priests and ran out and hanged himself. The Gospel of Matthew suggests that the priests suddenly became very scrupulous about returning blood money to the treasury and instead bought a potter's field, according to Matthew 27:7, for burying foreigners who died in Jerusalem.